Alright, so we're going to talk about confidence intervals and figuring out the idea of a confidence interval. Okay, so we're going to look at this and talk about seeing if we can guess the mean of our midterm exam scores. Okay, and to do that, we're going to create a confidence interval. So let's talk about this. So we're going to guess, we'll say the mean of our midterm exam, okay? So midterm exam. So we're going to guess the mean of that. Now, to do this, we're going to need, we're going to do that by creating a confidence interval. So confidence interval. Oh my goodness, I can spell here. What's going on with my pen? Confidence interval. Now, a confidence interval is simply taking your point estimate, and we're going to plus and minus our margin of error. So we're going to add our margin of error, and we're going to subtract our margin of error. Margin of error. Okay, so with that, your point estimate, we'll see that being abbreviated by just the PE, capital PE, and we'll say plus or minus our margin of error will simply be MOE. Okay, for margin of error. So now to do this, we'll have to take like a group of numbers, right, and see how we can do this. And we can do this several different ways. Well, let's say we took a sample of 5 scores to see if we could come up with our mean, right, of our midterm exam. Okay. But first off, let's talk about a few things. Let's talk about what our population, parameter, sample, and statistic are. Okay, so for this, let's go ahead and say our population. Okay, so our population is going to be all the midterm scores. So all, we'll say AP, since we're talking about AP, let's just use them as an example. So all AP midterm scores. Now, the sample we talked about doing was, again, I said we're going to take 5 test scores. We're going to pick 5 random scores to be able to try and calculate a mean for it. So, 5 midterm scores. Okay, and then we're going to say our parameter. Our parameter is the mean, the true mean score. And I haven't given you that yet. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Alright, so this will be our true mean score, right? Parameter. Oh, that was a bad arrow. Let me redraw that. So again, your mu is the true mean score. And with this, the statistic is going to be our 5 scores we get, right? In which case, it will be the mean value that we get from our 5 scores. Okay, so the mean from the 5 midterm scores. Which in that case is, if we put that in parentheses, we'll say is our sample, right? That's our sample. Alright, so let's say, in this case, the 5 scores we pick, we'll say we get 84 and 77, 60, a 71, and a 64. So we'll use those 5 score values. So first off, let's go ahead and calculate the mean of those 5 scores. So we're going to take those 5 scores and calculate the mean. In this case, take 84, 77, plus 60, plus 71, plus 64. Divide that all by 5. Let's see what we get. So let's go. Control makes it a fraction already, and let's go ahead and say 84, 77, 60, 71, plus 64. And we're going to divide that by 5. And we get 71.2. So we got 71.2. In which case, we'll just go ahead and call this 71. So we'll say we got good whole numbers for our values here. So now if we take this 71, let's do this. Let's create an interval. So let's create an interval by introducing a margin of error, because now that we've got a mean value, we're going to call this the 71, we're going to call this our point estimate. So again, our PE, we're going to call this a 71. And let's just make up a margin of error here. Let's say you feel that 71 is the mean value you came up with your sample, but let's say you feel that you want to give it a little leeway. So you want to say the actual mean value overall for the midterm exam falls in a certain range. And let's say it's within 4, plus or minus. So we'll say our margin of error is 4. So in other words, let's go ahead and create our confidence interval, right? By taking our 71 and adding 4. So that'll give us 75. Let's take our 71 and subtract 4. And that should give us 67. So now with that, we're saying that our overall interval we're looking at is going to be from 67 to 75. The next thing you'll do when you come up with a confidence interval, you either come up with saying how confident you are with it, or in this case, maybe it's given to you. But let's say you're feeling pretty confident in this, in which case your confidence interval, so you would say you're 95% confident that the mean, the true mean value of the midterm exam falls between 67 and 75. So let's say you're 95% confident. Well, if I could spell. Confident. Okay? So again, we got our point estimates by coming up with a mean value, right? Well, now your point estimate, if you're just given an interval, if you're just given these two values, again, don't let that confuse you as well. You could also come up with a point estimate by saying, if you have this interval already, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and do this real quick. So you're given 67 and what was it, 75, 67 and 75. Okay, you're given that interval and you're told to find your point estimate. Well, to find your point estimate between those two, you could simply say you're going to take 75 plus 67 divided by 2. In which case, what will we get there? Well, if we took 75 plus 67 divided by 2. Well, we get 71, which is what we came out to be with our mean value, right? And then, if you're wanting to find your margin of error, actually calculate the value that they used for your margin of error, you're simply going to say that you could also take these two values, take 75 minus 67 divided by 2. And so what do we get when we do that? Well, just make this a little bit easier. Let's push up twice, enter. Since we're just going to take this guy and make it minus, we should get 4. So in other words, that's giving us our values that we use. So therefore, it's telling us that our point estimate was 71, and our margin of error was 4, which we came up with. But you can always check that if they just give you an actual interval here. So let's say we had another interval of saying somebody else did 5 and they came up with, let's say 60 and 82. Okay? Well, what would be the point estimate here? Well, we can simply take 82 plus 60 and divide by 2. Oh, sorry, what was I here? 82 plus 60. 82 plus 60 divided by 2. And we get 71. So again, we still get 71 as our point estimate. And then what was our margin of error in this case? Well, if we were to take that margin of error, we're going to take 82 minus 60 and divide it by 2. Let's see what we get. Well, we're going to take, go back up. And I know most of you probably do this in your head, but I'm just doing a calculator, make it a little bit easier. Make sure we get the exact numbers. So our margin of error in this case, someone said they wanted to be 11. Well, in ours that we said initially, we said we were 95% confident, right? And we only had a margin of error of 4. So we were feeling pretty confident. But I guarantee you, if somebody with a margin of error of 11, they're probably sitting around 99% confident that they can actually get the actual mean value of the midterm exam, okay? Because they're saying that between 60 and 82, the true mean of the midterm should fall between those values, between 60 and 82. So that's what it's referring to, okay? So with that, we're looking at those. You'd be saying, okay, well, with these, one of them truly does contain the mean value, right? The true mean value. Now, the true mean score of the midterm was, it was 70. So the true mean score, let me get a different color here so we can. Alright, so our true mean score was actually 70. So in other words, 70 falls within 67 and 75, and 70 definitely falls between 60 and 82. So therefore it worked out with each one of those, okay? So if this is the case, if you're asked if one of these groups, does your interval support or deny the claim with saying that your true mean score is 70, you would say yes in both of these. You would say yes, that 70 is within my interval. Within my interval. Okay? And that's what you're looking at with those guys, okay? So, again, we're looking at this point estimate as your statistic that provides a reasonable guess about the population parameter. Again, your confidence intervals are your point estimate plus or minus the margin of error. And you can find your confidence intervals if you have just an A, B, if they just give you an interval, okay? You can find your point estimate and your margin of error based off those two values. And again, those are the base equations right there that we went over. The interpretation, which we didn't really go over too much with this, as far as we are 90% confident that the interval from A to B captures the true parameter of the context. And so we'll go about making that statement here, which is what we did. So with this, we kind of did, but we say yes falls in the range. But with this, on this first one, if you're in the red, you're going to say we are 95% confident.
That's I draw for you, Dad.
95% confident.
Hey, Dad.
Hang on, Maddie.
Hey, Dad, get an eye draw for you.
All right. 95% confident that the
Dad?
interval.
Hey, Daddy.
Hang on, baby. Hang on.
Dad, get an eye draw for you, Dad.
Where'd you draw?
This.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. It's called It's Daddy's birthday. After you wake up and you can get your birthday. It's your birthday.
Thanks, baby. All right, so we are 9% confident the interval from 67 to 75 captures the, in this case, our context, the true mean score of AP Statistics midterm. Okay. So we're 95% confident the interval from 67 to 75 captures the true mean score of the AP Stat midterm. Again, you could also say, if you wanted to do this, I'm not going to write it all out again, but we can kind of just do a little changing of the numbers here. You would say you are 99% confident that the interval from 60 to 82 captures the true mean score of AP midterm exams. Either one of those would be the same way of stating that information. Alright guys, so we're going to do something. I'll see you next time.